Hello, welcome to this tutorial on markups and markdowns. We're going to take a look at a few different things relating to markups and markdowns. First, we're going to take a look at how you can determine price or cost based on marking up at cost. Then we're going to go on and take a look at markups based on selling price. We'll also examine how to determine a unit price when you're dealing with a perishable product. And finally, we'll take a look at how to determine what sort of sales are required to break even. Now, let's start with markup at cost. Let's go through this example. We have Jay who sells calculators, and his competitors sell those same calculators for $14 a unit. This should say Jay needs 40% markup on his cost to make his desired profit, and he must meet the competitor's pricing of $14. So what kind of cost has Jay got to come up with? Well, let's look at this very simply. We know that our cost that we have to meet, or the selling price that we have to meet with our competitors, is $14. And we know that the selling price has to have a profit and a cost. So this is going to be his cost plus his markup, or the profit. And the markup is multiplied times his cost. Okay, what do? Well, we know that $14 here is equal to, let's plug some numbers in here, cost plus the percent markup, which is 40%. Now remember, 40 is 0.40 and not 0.04. And that gets applied to the cost. All right, how do we further simplify this? Well, 14 is now going to equal cost plus 40% cost. This is the same thing as saying a 1 times C. So when you add 1C and 0.4C, you get 1.4 times the cost. Okay, in order to isolate this cost, then we have to divide both sides by 1.4. So now we have 14 divided by 1.4 equals your cost. So 14 divided by 1.4 is 10. All right. Now, let's check this out. What do we have? If we go back into our formula, we can say that 14 equals a cost of $10 plus the markup, or the profit. In order to figure out what this markup or profit is, all we have to do then is subtract the 10 from both sides of the equation. So 14 minus 10 is going to equal $4 of markup or profit. Okay, so each one of Jay's items that he sells is going to have a cost of $10 and a profit of $4. Great. Let's move on and take a look at markup based on selling price. If we go back and we take a look at Jay's information again, and this time we're going to mark up 40% on the selling price instead of the cost, and Jay still has to get the competitor's selling price of $14. What's the markup and cost now? Don't jump to the conclusion that it's the same as here, because it's not going to be. Let's summarize the information again using the same sort of formula. We're going to have 14 as your selling price. You must match that. And that's going to equal a cost plus a markup, not on cost this time, but on the selling price. So let's put our numbers in. That selling price that we have to match of 14 is going to equal the cost plus the markup of 40% on the selling price of $14. Okay, let's simplify this further. 14 equals your cost plus 5.6. All right, to isolate that C, or that cost, we have to subtract 5.6 from both sides of the equation. So if I subtract 5.6, $14 minus $5.60, I'm going to get $8.40 equal to my cost. So with a selling price of $14, he's got a cost of $8.40 and a profit, or a markup, of $5.60. How'd you do with that? Okay, let's get a little more complicated. Let's take a look at when we're dealing with markdowns and perishable products, so we can determine a selling price that will cover any of losses we incur for perishable goods. We have a fellow here named Alvin, and he has a fruit stand, and he typically buys 300 pounds of tomatoes at 14 cents a pound. So let's figure out what our total cost is going to be. Total cost is going to be 300 pounds times 0.14, 14 cents per pound. And that gives me a total cost of $42. $42 total cost. Okay, now he's telling us that our spoilage is going to be 5%, so our loss is 5% of the pounds that we are purchasing. So if we have 300 pounds, 5% of that is 0.05, which is 15 pounds. 15 pounds are going to be lost. So the good product, the amount of good product we have, is 300 minus 15, or 285 pounds of good product that we can sell. All right, so now we want to take a look at what our total sales are going to be. We know, and we're going to deal this in dollars now. So our total sales are going to be the cost of $42, because we know that the markup is on cost, 60%. So we're going to have some cost, and we're going to mark that cost up by 60%. 60% of that cost. There's our markup. So our total sales then are $42 plus 60% of 42, which is $25.20, which is equal to $67.20. Now that is for total sales, not per unit, total sales of 285 items. Because we can't sell 300, we can only sell 285. All right, so how much per pound am I going to sell this for? I'm going to take $67.20. I'm going to divide that by the total sellable pounds. Decimal in there. And that will yield 0.236 per pound. 23.6 cents, or you could round it up to 24 cents per pound. Okay, now we've taken care of the spoilage and the markups to develop a unit pricing model. All right, let's take a look at break-evens. If we have a situation where we have we're selling calculators again, and they must be sold to break even. If the selling price is $19.99, how many are there? Well, we got a variable cost of $309 and a fixed cost of $225,000. Well, remember, break even is that point at which your costs, all of your costs, equal zero profits. So, based on the same sort of thinking, we're going to take a look at this, and we're going to develop another model where we determine that the selling price for so many units, doesn't matter what the unit count is immediately, selling price times the number of units is going to be the variable cost times those same units, right? For every unit you sell, there's a unit cost to that sale. That's your variable cost. And then you're also going to have another cost, which is a fixed cost. Fixed costs are things that are not directly attached to the individual product, but costs that you have to incur nonetheless, like perhaps property taxes or rent or insurance, things like that. It doesn't matter how many units you sell, that number will remain unchanged. 25,000 units. All right, if we have to isolate for the number of units, what we have to do is start pulling numbers over. But in the meantime, let's develop this quantitatively. We have a selling price of $19.99. We don't know how many units yet, and we know that's going to equal a variable cost of $309 for those same number of units that we have yet to determine, plus 25,000. Okay, let's get these units all together here. In order to do that, we're going to bring this 309 from the right side over to the left by subtracting. Okay, that means now we are going to have 1690 per unit is going to equal 25,000. Okay, now we have to isolate that unit, and the way to do that is to divide both sides of the equation by 1690. Divide this side by 1690. These cancel each other out, leaving you with just the units. So a unit of product required to break even is 25,000 divided by 1690, which is 1,479.29. Now units, of course, have to be whole numbers, so you would round up to 1480. 1,480 units are required to be sold in order to break even, which means zero profits. Well, I hope you find this helpful, and that's the end of our tutorial on markups and markdowns.